a workforce trained in tradition but equipped for the future. Learn more about how you can impact the collision repair industry yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
It's somewhere where I would, okay, if I could bring this in context here.
Here, by using a straight line angle, I can take 3 measurements around.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Spinizzi Interactive Week, How to Utilize the DEG. Now, let me introduce your host, coming to you live from Studio 3 in Naperville, Illinois, Mr. Tim Morgan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody's having a great day. It's a Friday, probably pumping a lot of cars out of your shop before the weekend, taking some time to be able to spend with us. I'm pretty excited. We were able to get Danny from DEG to join us to be able to talk about projects that he's been working on, and he's been instrumental in finding ways to increase repair times and I don't know, Danny, you probably have a better way to a better perspective of how to put it in place, but I've seen over the past couple of years, been watching. Spinizzi's one of the DEG sponsors, and we're excited to see what you and the team are doing to be able to give back to the industry to make it a much better one. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Tim and Carl, thank you so much for having us today here on the Interactive Week. We're just so thankful for having Spinizzi be one of our supporters, because it helps provide a free resource to the industry when it comes down to anyone touching an estimating system in one of the 3 estimating systems, whether it's CCC, Mitchell, and Autotex. We are essentially like a middleman between a concern or an inquiry that you may have to one of the 3 major information providers. So the DEG, again, is a free resource available to the industry. If you have a question, concern, one of the P pages, labor time issues, language in the P pages, send us an inquiry, www.degweb.org. And we're here to, be that contact person, the liaison between you and the information provider, and get any inquiry addressed for you, the industry.
Okay, so let's when you figure out how this was all put together and everything, how do people get to be able to utilize the DEG exactly?
So it's a great question. So say as an estimator or a technician, as they're reviewing a repair plan, they're going down the repair plan, they may identify whether it be a labor operation, whether it would be a something in the P pages. They can come straight to the DEG website, and then and I'll show you here in a second. So let me get my screen sharing started.
So while you're doing that, Danny, a few years ago, there was only a handful of inquiries. Mm-hmm. How are we doing today with the volume of inquiries that have been coming through?
So we have seen a major increase. I mean, right now we're currently just right around the 19,000 inquiry mark. So total inquiries submitted just under 19,000 submitted on our website. And the great thing about it that is all the inquiries are available to see on our website under the database tab. So real quick here, do you guys see my side of the screen here? Just
Yes,
wanna make sure.
absolutely.
Okay, great. So when you go to the DEG website here, you'll be able to go to the database tab, which is the top left drop-down menu will take you to a database tab. And that database tabs allows you to search for prior inquiries. It allows you to, search for keywords, just, go through it and see what's been submitted. And it might be something that's already been submitted and answered and addressed by one of the 3 information providers, or even answered by the DEG itself. But again, to anyone wanting to submit a new inquiry, it's really simple. On the top right corner, you'll see a button that says Open Inquiry. That will take you to a page where you can fill out an inquiry and then essentially add as much information that you can regarding that issue, whether it be photos of the issue, and obviously a description that you would want to fill out as well with the vehicle information, so that way we can also replicate the concern in the estimating system. From there, once you submit it to the DEG, we'll validate it and then get it submitted to the information provider, and then work with them on a resolution that pretty much fixes the issue. So that way, if there is a correction made the following month, it's going to be updated. But the great thing about it is you're going to have documentation if there's a correction made, so you can go ahead and adjust your repair plan as needed, and have documentation. This is acknowledged by the information provider, and then you can go ahead and support it that way. So if anyone questions why you're manually overriding something or why you're adding that to your repair plan, you have documentation straight from the information provider to support that on the spot. And we get responses back. For example, from one of the carriers or from one of the information providers within 24 to 48 hours. So you can imagine, I mean, if you catch it, before the car gets into your paint shop, before the car comes out, I mean, you can have a response back, and before you even submit your final supplement. That's the whole goal.
And so let me get this straight. You now have nearly 19,000 inquiries of something that was discovered could be a problem with a repair plan, and you're telling me this is free?
Free, absolutely free. And none of this would be free without SCRS and AASP being the funding of it through the membership dollars, but with the additional support with companies like Spinisi making this available to the industry. I mean, it's free. I love free stuff, and I'm sure everyone else does too.
Well, it's just a very powerful point that you can. I mean, every estimate's written every day, and repair plans put together every day. Everyone should be utilizing this more and more, because they're probably leaving dollars on the table.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's a big change. It could be, and I'll show you examples here as we get into this, but it can be, we've seen changes of 20 hours on a specific labor operation, and that might be for a a very rare case, but we've seen changes that are more common, maybe 5-6 hours here and there. But think about that very common car where there might be an issue of 0.2, 0.3, and on let's just say like a Honda Civic or like a Toyota Camry. I mean, think about how many of those cars are fixed out there in our industry, and that 0.2 and 0.3 can make a huge impact across the board. And when you fix it, when you discover that issue or that concern, and it's something that gets addressed, I mean, not only did you get it fixed for yourself, but you're fixing it for the entire industry, because again, these common cars, I mean, everyone touches them. So it's a great resource to have.
And one of the things when we're teaching repair planning here in our training, we're talking about adding the 0.5s and the 0.5s and the 0.5s and how quickly they add up. So you're exactly correct. And then if someone reports something to you and you're able to gain, 5 hours or 20 hours, this is really powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, it's when I first discovered it myself, I mean, it was mind blowing. And when I got the opportunity to be, the administrator for the website, I mean, I took it, faster than didn't even consult anyone. It was like, yes, absolutely, because I found so much value in it for myself, and you know, the changes that I was able to get, you know, corrected, and also having the resources of having, you know, access to all the information providers' P pages, the estimating tips that we provide on the DEG. Those are all powerful tools. I mean, it doesn't cost you a penny to access our website. I mean, not even a login required. That's how free it is. I mean, that's how open our site is, and not even a login required. It's really open. You know, you go to degweb.org, and you're boom, you're right into that website with access to it. So
Danny, do we have a sense of how often repair procedures are modified versus how often they're not modified for times? Do we have that kind of number?
You know, I don't have that exact number, but that's a great question. And you know, the information providers are basing their labor times off the OEM information, the repair procedures, and you know, at the time of publication, you know, they may have done their time study based on that original repair procedure, and we all know that overnight an OEM can just change a repair procedure, you know, without even any notice. It's not like they send you a notification, but we have discovered that a change in the repair procedure can also affect the labor time down the road. So it might have been correct at one point, but the new updated procedure may warrant for another correction in there. And the DEG also works closely with the with many of the OEMs, you know, with their collision teams or with their technical departments, you know, to help validate that concern when something happens. How does that impact, and how does that change the repair procedure, and how could that impact the actual operation, the time spent? And granted that the OEMs don't provide the labor values, you know, with their help and feedback by giving us, you know, helping us give us access to like their repair information to help validate that concern. I mean, that's a huge assistance, and that just goes to show you the, you know, the fidelity of DEG, you know, of, you know, being able to work with the OEM, and you know, they give us access as well to their information to help validate the concern. And yeah, I mean, great resource here, you know, when it comes down to that.
And you know that I have been, and I don't know that everybody knows, but I have been a huge supporter of the DEG for many, many years. The first time I heard about it was from Mike Anderson, who talked about it in a seminar, and I went and I looked at it and I said, how can we not win by having this resource in our facilities? So I would talk to our collision repair shop owners about this resource, along with other things, you know, in different conversations, and a lot of the feedback at the time. Now, obviously, this has changed recently, because at the time it was only 1,500 inquiries, but at the time it was like, why would I want to waste my time doing all this? But I mean, you make a great point here. This is a resource for everybody, and everybody gets to enjoy the benefits of accurate labor times, accurate operations, and understanding what is included, what's not included.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, how do, you know, and again, going back to how does this help, you know, the customer or the industry? You know, we talk about, you know, there's so many variables involved, and you know, Spinese is a very big, you know, they're an equipment company, and you know, and the structural equipment that you guys have, you know, let's face it, there's so many variances in all these equipments, you know, and repairers need to realize there's not one number that can fit all this type of equipment out there. So it's really important, you know, when a repairer says, you know, oh, this equipment, it's going to potentially take me, you know, either less time or more time on it. How does that equate to when you're repair planning? And the DEG was able to get a response, you know, from the information providers saying that they don't provide a labor time, you know, for setting, you know, for example, setting up and measuring a vehicle, or setting up the frame rack equipment. It's going to require an on-the-spot evaluation. And when you use that specific product, and you know, it's really important to understand that one number that you may be used to hearing, you know, or provided, which is a very common number, may not just meet that criteria, you know, for the equipment that you're using. So it's really important performing an on-the-spot evaluation. You know, is there some additional considerations that you may have to perform when setting up and measuring a vehicle? Do you have to do additional fixturing setup, building that fixture? Do you have to do some additional damage diagnosis? Those are all not included operations. And, we have an inquiry, submitted here, but also we can help you point you back to the P pages where it specifically talks about, like in CCC, the structural damage diagnosis and vehicle setup time is not included. Even things like the welder setup and preparation of that equipment is not included. And those are very important details to capture on your repair plan. A, it may be a required step by the manufacturer, but B, it's also a billable not included operation that's justified by the P pages in the information provider systems that you're working with. And again, this is for CCC right here. And they also define, the frame machine setup in their P pages. There's variables. They don't develop a labor time for each system's going to, be very unique to its own configuration. And you have drive-on, dedicated systems. You have universal type systems. It's an on-the-spot evaluation. And when you consider that, in your estimating classes, I'm sure you guys talk about all these additional steps that may be required, to properly anchor a vehicle versus just, it may not just be as simple as putting it in a pinch wheel clamp on the floor or, on the frame racks, like some of the archaic older systems that, that were introduced before I was even born.
That's an interesting point because it, back in the day, you used to see repair plans all the time that says pull and square front end, and it lumped it all into one labor cost, and then all of a sudden, the insurance starts to kick back and say, wait a minute here, how's this all lumped into one? When you're better off turning around and looking at what each individual labor operation have I done? Because as you said, 4 pinch weld clamps may not be what it needs anymore. I know you look at BMWs, you look at Teslas, you look at some other vehicles that are out there, and not just high-end vehicles. You look at the Hondas. So, they're requiring that you use a fixturing system in order to be able to hold the vehicle. They're requiring it in the repair process. So all that's not in those P pages. All that needs to be added. And then besides the equipment being unique, every vehicle's unique too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's, we can, we can have, a whole day classes, talking about these things, when it comes down to, considerations. But the first thing is to realize is, if you have a question, regarding if it's included or not, go to the website, degweb.org, submit an inquiry, research our website, and we'll be more than happy to, point you in the right direction. So, great. It's definitely a hot topic that's definitely been trending. It's something that hasn't gone away, over the years. We talk about like the welder setup and preparation, those may be required steps by the manufacturer that's documented and proved. And the last thing you want to do is not perform these steps and have an incomplete weld done. We talk about, Mitchell having their type of language in their systems. So, like you see right here in their P pages, measure and identify structural damage by comparing underbody, underhood, upper body reference points to accepted OEM-based dimension specification to identify damage in unibody vehicles. And, whether you're using the OEM data or if you're using the equipment, the measuring system, like I believe you guys have that Spin Easy Touch, that's all not included operations in that vehicle repair time or that R&R time. So, and again, this was something that we were pretty happy to see that this was something that Mitchell updated for 2022 or 2021 was adding this weld testing and not included operation to their addition to labor time. So, that's how the DEG, inquiries, submitted. We can talk to the information providers and even update P page language to reflect that.
Well, yeah, and our last segment was on welding, and that's one of the things that we talked about is a lot of times when you're doing those setups and you're testing and fine-tuning the welder to be able to make the proper welds on the vehicle, you should be paid for doing that. And secondly, are you saving those samples and maybe marking them with the RO number and putting them on the shelf in case something happens down the road to prove that yes, the welder was welding correctly, or for instance, with our resistance welder, being able to take the and make a printout of that the welds were performed successfully.
Absolutely. And it tells a story, and we always want to tell a story when we're assessing a vehicle, not only beforehand, but also be able to save and document the in process repairs as much as we can. So it's really important that we identify these non-included operations. We perform them. More importantly, if we're gonna add it on our repair plan, we need to perform that step as well. But finally, if we can document it via photos, saving those coupons, taking the pictures of the in process, showing how much work that you as a repairer have put into repairing that vehicle correctly. I mean, the story tells a lot that happened, and also helps you get reimbursed properly by the vehicle owner, bill payer, who's ever authorizing that bill. But it's really important to understand following the OEM recommended procedures, using the repair procedures, and then also documenting everything that you're doing is huge for liability.
Right. So speaking of that, the inquiries and the changes and the documentation, why don't you share an example or of what you've done, looking at an inquiry from start to finish?
So this was a recent inquiry, and this was submitted by a shop that was working on a late model Chevy Silverado. And if you're a repairer that's worked on a late model Chevy Silverado, we know that the whole vehicle's changed from the prior generation. Something that you might have been welding 2 years ago is now completely adhesive bonded on, or the Silverado is a completely different car, and it's completely eye-opening. So we can never assume that repair procedures are the same throughout. So this was an inquiry where a repairer discovered when they were replacing a bedside that the labor time wasn't just wasn't cutting it for their technician to complete that operation based on the P-page allowances within that time. So this inquiry originally had 9 hours to replace the bedside. So once they submitted it, they were able to submit photos of the in process, showing the complexities involved, all that seam sealer work they had to remove to get to the spot welds. And then on top of that, then they had to now, follow the OEM procedures, which in this case was to, I believe, bond it on there. And they increased it from 9 hours to 12.2 hours. So an additional 3.2 hours was added onto that repair plan. And they didn't have to, look for not-included operations on here. This was just something that just for the basic panel replacement time before any not-included operations were considered, was increased over by 3.2 hours. And it took the repairer maybe 3 to 5 minutes to submit this on our website, and look what the impact was. You consider the changes that the technician was able to get, the shop was able to make more money, but also now the entire industry was able to now get this new updated time.
Wow, 3.2 hours, bam,
on a bedside, right? I mean, we don't before this inquiry was submitted, and I'm sure there was, and again, the Silverado's been out for a couple of years already, that new one, maybe 1-2 years, I'm not sure exactly, but I can't even imagine how many repairs were out there replacing that bedside for that nine hours, and that thought they were, that was acceptable, and they were probably not able to get, complete in that time allowance. So, that was discovered by a repairer. Another one was, recently there was a new a video that was done by Honda with the iCars Repairers Realm that discussed about the new Honda Accord roof replacement. And a shop out there, right after that video, had just received a Honda Accord that needed a roof replacement. And boom, lights just went off. I just watched the video. I got this car in my shop, and I'm reviewing the repair plan, and they noticed they only had 19.5 hours to replace that roof. Well, something that Honda mentioned was there was a lot more laser welds involved into this roof panel because it's a seamless design between the roof and the outer apertures. So once they submitted the photos, the inquiry, and they even provided a link back to the video from the Repairers Realm. In this case, the information provider updated that to 25 hours. for the roof without the sunroof, and then 26.5 with the sunroof. So, another five hours added, to a roof panel job, because unfortunately the estimate may have been reflective of carryover data, and this repair was able to identify that early on this model, all by these industry resources that are coming out here and available to you, and boom. The timing couldn't have been better on this one for this specific repair. He just watched the video, he just got a car in the shop, and all of a sudden, as he's repair planning, he discovered there's no way this complex repair can be done in this time. And to show the accuracy of the estimating system, and you'll see right here, they also talk about the refinish time was also adjusted. Now, granted, the refinish time went down in this case. It's because there was an error on this consideration, because the information provider may have been accounting for additional areas to refinish that shouldn't be on this thing. So, the repair time it's not just always go up, but it's also to get the repair times to be accurate and reflective of what the actual vehicle needs. So there are times that the repair times goes up, but sometimes there's labor times that need to be accurately adjusted. So in this case, the refinish time was reflective of that as well. And then in this case, we had a secondary inquiry submitted, to find out more about why the refinish time was corrected, and that was to find out because of the change of how it's serviced between the outer aperture and the pillar. So it's all justifiable. We got a response to support that change, and the repairer at the end of the day was able to agree to that, and say, okay, that's understanding. At the end of the day, I think repairers can all agree, I don't want anything more, nothing less. I just want to get paid for what I do, and that's it.
That's a key point. That's a big key point, and especially when you start to see that. Well, wait a minute here. This doesn't look like what they said in the past. We do need to be able to get more money here. So, absolutely.
And I'll go through another one. And again, this goes back to that recent Chevy Silverado inquiry, or recent Chevy Silverado. Now we're going to go to that front structure. And I'm sure your team has pulled their hair out, trying to figure out, seeing the difference of how that new front end structure goes in versus the prior generation bolt-on structure on that radiator support. And this inquiry was really unique because the way that part is serviced, it's serviced as a radiator support, and then they also have a complete front structure assembly. So the repairer noticed that the radiator support, which is included with the assembly, has a refinish time allowance, but the assembly of the whole front structure doesn't have a refinish time. So, what happened there? So there was just completely missing time in the system. So once that got submitted, Carl, Tim, can you say that number right there?
Yeah, 6.7 hours.
6.7 hours of refinish labor was added to the front radiator support structure assembly. That was completely
that's
missing.
Incredible. That's incredible.
And then you got 6.7 hours, and then you also have material times to add to that.
Yeah, if your facilities if your facility is calculating off a multiplier method, that's 6.7 hours times whatever your material rate is. Or if you're or if you're just billing out per the invoice, that doesn't matter. But 6.7 hours your painter is now seeing on that sheet, that was completely zeroed. Or if someone was to add something in there, was it too much? Was it too little? Now we have accurate data to support that refinish time that's needed on that truck.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's eye-opening right there. And when you look at that, and it's very easy to look at that and go, how is that missed? And you look at the complexity involved. Again, did they have that vehicle, in there available to them to that time study? Did they, this repairer was able to submit all the photos, all the masking efforts, all the preparation efforts, all that, the nooks, crannies. It's not like taking a DA and just being able to buzz a flat panel and just, get to it. This support took a lot of time to properly refinish, and that you think about, potentially, okay, if someone caught that, and they manually added labor, but you think about someone who may have forgot to, who didn't even catch that, and they were just doing that work regardless, and and they weren't capturing anything right there. So now when they select that component, I mean, they're, next month's update, it's gonna show up there. But in the meantime, that's the importance of just researching the DEG. Take a few minutes every week, and just see what's the latest inquiry submitted, because it's something. It might be a vehicle that you have in your shop, and that you can use that response on a car that you currently have in your shop right now. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, I've been able to find that response on something that just got submitted, and I was just about to submit something, but boom, it's already been addressed right there. So, I mean, if you're not aware of the DEG, definitely use it, visit it, look at the inquiries. If you're questioning something, submit the inquiry. Doesn't hurt to, asking the same question, 2, 3, 4 times doesn't hurt. At least you're getting the answer and you're reaching out to a resource out there to help you get that addressed. And again, this is another final example, and this isn't like 6.7 hours drastic, but this is on the recent those Jeep Wranglers, the Gladiators type vehicles, where again, if you've done one of these recent vehicles, the fender flares and those bedside flares, that they changed the design of that, and apparently now that there's a painted area and there's some integrated texture area that was part of that flare. So again, a shop, they were working with their painter, and the painter said, painting the flare part, isn't the problem, but in this case, it's masking that textured grained area that's causing, a little bit extra time that I got to spend in here to carefully mask it. And going back to the P pages, they do talk about, when masking a textured area, it may be included only one time, but in this case, they submitted it with photos, the amount of work that they had to do. And again, the information provider was able to correct the labor time from 1.2 hours to 1.8 hours. Granted, we'll never know where that true time was adjusted, whether it's in the masking, but heck, I like, an increase of 0.6 per flare. That's a win in my book, or that's an increase where, you can now, get compensated correctly for that repair. So,
if you do enough of those Jeep Gladiator flares over the course of a year or 2 or 3, I mean, that 0.6 per flare can add up to some serious revenue that would have been lost otherwise.
Absolutely, you would have been doing it at that original amount, anyways. I mean, you'd still be doing it. I mean, you still got to. I mean, when the car comes to you, you're still doing the repair. But again, 2-3 minutes spent submitting an inquiry. I mean, and look at the payoff on that one. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And the whole idea is, the repairer didn't have to dig out the phone number of their rep, or they didn't have to sit on hold. I mean, I think that's one thing that a lot of people say is, I got to call someone and then you got to sit on hold, and get a hold of someone. Just submit that to the DEG. We are the middleman. Let us sit on hold. That's what we're here for. Is to sit on hold for you, or keep following up with the information providers. Have that discussion, and when we get a response, we'll push it back to you. As soon as we get it. I mean, all these responses were 24 to 48 hours responses. Back to the end user. I mean, there's going to be some times it takes, maybe a week, maybe a few weeks, because they got to do some additional research. Some information providers are more global based, and it requires more levels to go through. But when you're talking about CCC and motor, I mean, they're responding quickly. Mitchell, they're local, so they're responding quickly. Autotech, same thing, they're responding quickly, and let us put get the answer for you and publish it on the website.
So I got a question here, and I'm gonna throw a question in, because it really relevant at this point here. So the viewer says, I ain't got no time for that. And I know that we've heard that quite a bit in this industry, but well, I'm going to let you address that, Danny, because I mean, I know you talked about it, but really, what are we talking for doing an inquiry like we're talking about with the fender flare?
2-3 minutes. This can be done. Right at the car. It can be done on your phone. It can be done. The estimator can do it. I mean, I've heard repairs where they've had a technician that a technician's created this as a revenue stream, just submitting inquiries all day, he literally as he's doing the repairs, he's taking notes, and he goes home and he's literally submitting an inquiry every day, and that's his revenue, and he's showing back, once he gets a change back, I mean, he goes back to his boss and says, "Look what I got done. Look what I got changed. Look what I," and he's putting, he's getting that, changed on his repair plan. And I think one of them said, Mike Anderson said that, he goes, it almost equated more than, a pretty sizable, probably more than some people's salary, just in the inquiries changes that he's submitting. And, that it just goes to show you, I mean, it's, what do you have time for? I mean, I think we've all heard the term, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink it. In this case, the resources here, it takes 2 minutes to, 2-3 minutes to submit the inquiry, fill out the form. If you're using obviously like a Google Chrome or something that has a pre-filled out browser, I mean, where it saves your contact information, that just shaves right there another minute, because it saves the contact information probably takes just 1 minute by itself. That pre-fills itself out. So all you're doing is just putting in the vehicle information, the issue, and if there's, we obviously want you to submit a strong inquiry, with as much details as possible. I get it. We may be in a rush. We're getting pulled away. We have someone in front of us. Sometimes we don't capture that detail. My background, I can see what the concern is. If I need to pick up the phone and call you and kind of finish off the inquiry with you, that's what I'm here for. I mean, there's a live person reviewing these inquiries and also, validating it. So, maybe there's a time where you get a response back where it doesn't change something, but you may be not capturing something as from the P pages. I will give you my time to walk you through the P pages or some strategies through the estimating system to get you to address your concern, because maybe it's not a labor time issue. Maybe it's just the non-included operation, and I'm willing to give you my time to help you find that.
Are there any online resources that you have that are pre-built so people can take a little tutorial about how to do this, or is it you just kind of need to walk through it and do it a few times to figure out what's going on with it?
So we have YouTube. We have YouTube videos with like different tutorials. So if you go to YouTube and search DEG web, or just keywords like that, or on our website, we have all the videos that we have published on our website. So we have how to add clear code to edging operations. We have tutorial videos for that. How to understand and read the Auditex labor report. I know repairers out there who see an Auditex estimate may question how to read that labor report. It's very cumbersome. We have tutorial videos how to read those things. So we help make those educational videos as well on our website. We also if you're getting SERS's email subscription, I'm sure you've seen videos with Mike Anderson and I. We have those estimating quick tips that these are quick 2 to 5 minute videos that really talk about some powerful things that that we do on a daily basis. And sometimes these are things that you can sit here and go, I know that, but the question is, are you actually applying it? And having these videos and tips and these estimating tips that we have on our website, it's a great reminder. So I always say, if you're not on the email blast, send an email to info@scrs.com. You'll be added on the email distribution list, and then that way you're automatically getting all the estimating tips from DEG, and then you're obviously getting all these video links and everything like that. But there's just so many online free resources, available for free. Now, there's also additional tools out there, and and I think we'll want to get into maybe an additional presentation, but we could talk about like the SCRS bot tool to help capture those not included operations. So there's things like that. There's using like your paint manufacturer's bulletins. There's OEM information, how to capture those things. So I mean, we can go hours and hours and days and weeks, talking about how to capture and write the most accurate repair plan. But I think the best starting point is, and I see this on like on Facebook and all the groups, hey, I just got this estimating program. where do I go to find out, get what's a resource? And boom, DEG web should be like you're on your bookmark list, right there. Every day you open up your computer, that should be your homepage right there. DEG, if you're in the collision center.
What's really hot right now? I mean, you showed us a few examples of things that have come through, but what are you seeing the most examples of, and what kind of, if it's a make, it's a model, it's what are you getting hit with the most?
Well, I will say, anyone fixing a mainstream car, we had a ton of inquiries, and if you try to decode a Nissan VIN lately, you may have noticed there's no database for a Nissan in 2 of the 3 estimating platforms. So that finally got fixed out there. I just want to make that announcement. The Nissan database is now getting fixed and getting addressed. So we are seeing the database out there. Man, that was like an auto reply inquiry that I had at one point. It's like, it's coming, it's coming. And that's not something from the DEG. We had no control over that. That was something between the information provider and the manufacturer. But so that is being addressed. But I think the biggest thing is, when it comes down to is really understanding the language in the P pages and interpreting it, because as cars get more advanced, with electronics, ADAS systems, safety systems, advanced materials, the how you attach that replacement panel back on there, and you're trying to decipher that language against the language in the P pages that may have been written way before its time, and applying that language to today's vehicles. I think that's the biggest thing, and we get a lot of clarifications back from the information providers. And we're seeing a lot of updates being, and granted these updates are once a year, but we're seeing updates in language to reflect, that. So, for example, welder setup, granted it's been out there for a while, that's something that's been required for many years, but yet that's the type of language that we're getting updated. For example, Mitchell recently updated their P pages to reflect a test drive vehicle, road testing the vehicle, as a non-included operation, and in where they haven't had that for many years. So, I think it's the biggest thing is deciphering the language and how to apply today's vehicles to a system where it was, and let's face it, these systems have been around for longer than I've been around for, and even I have challenges. So that's why I have to have that communication with the information providers, daily to figure out how do we best put the end user in the right direction with that.
Now, do you do a lot of glass inquiries, or is it just mostly collision side?
Specifically glass, no, but we do get inquiries regarding, glass labor. You think about, when a glass is, when a manufacturer considers glass one-time use or not, how about having that footnote in the database? And that's a great question, Carl, by the way. Having that footnote, because some glass may be one-time use. So we get inquiries submitted, hey, the manufacturer states it's one-time use in the procedures, but the footnotes don't show that. Can we get that footnote added? And we work with the information provider and add it. Again, if you worked on a Ford vehicle recently, or for many years, at one point some of their glasses, the procedures may have showed that the bonded glasses for some vehicles were one-time use, and then they made an overnight update, and now those glasses were determined to be reusable, and the footnotes were still showing that glasses one-time use. So now you have a inaccuracy in the database. So you have repairers out there that were replacing glass, and when in reality they could have been reusing it. So that's an example of how glass inquiries can be submitted. We're seeing one-time use parts from the manufacturer's clips, fasteners, even as long as the manufacturer states it's one-time use or replace only, the footnote can be added in the database. Otherwise, we'll put you back into the direction of the database, showing you hopefully where to protect you as a repair in the event a molding breaks, due to the age condition of the vehicle. Some vehicles in various markets don't have the luxury of where these parts come off, in a reusable manner, and sometimes they just break because of the deterioration, the natural deterioration. So we'll show you where in the database you can find the statement that helps hopefully protect you and get you reimbursed for that one-time use part, quote unquote.
Well, thank you very much for explaining glass to me on this. Quick note, we are about 45 minutes in, so if you haven't put your question into the chat window, into the Q&A window, please do that now. For Danny, we'll try and get it answered on air. If we can't get it answered on air, we'll shoot you over a email later on with the answer. I'm sure Danny would be more than happy to answer all your questions. Now, I want to hit you with a buzzword that's really big in this industry right now, Danny. And the acronym is ADAS. And how is DEG helping shops with this? I mean, this is not just this is a very complex question in terms of all the operations necessary to make sure that this car gets put back together. So where does DEG stand in that context, in that conversation?
So great question. Some information providers are going down that road. Some of them are not. And when I say not, they acknowledge it. I mean, all three systems acknowledge ADAS, electronic safety systems are on the vehicle. Some of them are going down the road of getting into the time studies of it. And if they do, the main thing is verifying it against the OEM procedure and validating it against the OEM procedure and when there is a time published, to really find out what's not included in that, because as of now, there's no P-page included, not included section regarding ADAS calibrations for the ones that even have a published labor time. So that's why, when we get an inquiry, and there is a labor time associated to, for example, aim camera or aim radar in a system, now an inquiry can be submitted to find out what's included in that and what's not included on that. And on our website, we do have a few inquiries that talk about that. I don't have it on this slideshow, but if you do have a question, or reach out, and I'll give you all my contact information, how to if you're having trouble finding that. But the main thing is discussing with the information provider. Okay, if you are publishing a time, and if we agree to disagree to it, okay, what's not included in that time, so we can get that additional consideration. And and I'll even take it a step back before we even talk about ADAS. I mean, we're all been around long enough to understand that the systems have aim headlights in their databases. And then now that we're researching OEM procedures, there's some manufacturers that have 3-4 page documents how to aim a headlight. It's no longer just parking it against your garage wall and just adjusting that against the lines that you've created right there. So then so the question came out to, what did that 0.4, 0.5 labor allowance? How do you adjust a headlight? And that has a 4-page OEM procedure, and that also tells you have to top off the fluids, have certain weight in the vehicle, adjust your tire pressure, and all these steps that you never. And again, they're responding back with the not included steps in that. So that in the DEG inquiry can help you obtain that. And the same goes to those ADAS calibrations. When you see that aim radar, or when you see things like that, does the aiming procedure include alignments, pre-alignment? No, it does not. Does aiming of it include the cost of your equipment, of your ADAS equipment? No. Now you even talk about subletting. The system only allows for we'll call it 1 unit, but the cost from your sublet vendors doesn't jive with that amount. So how do you, and at that point we say, if you're subletting it, that's not a labor value in the system. That's a sublet operation, that your vendor is charging you, and that's not included as far as in the system. Even talking about wheel alignments, when you're using when you're selecting wheel alignment in the database, and they give you the time, and we'll use example 2.5 units in there. What does that include? And they have it broken down. It includes this, and this. But but I'm only getting reimbursed. We'll call it $69.95. What is that? That's no longer a P-page operation of included operations. And we know that $69.95 alignment may not be shifting your cross members, may not be doing all the necessary collision related alignments. We typically know that might be like a maintenance type of alignment, as we call it, tow and go or whatever it is. But again, each sublet vendor performs their own individual operations.
Well, you bring up some great points there, Danny, and I think as we go through this, the 4-page aim headlight procedure is going to be not uncommon on these vehicles moving forward. No. But as we talk about ADAS, one of the things that we're concerned at Spinisi is making sure that you have a straight vehicle to even begin the calibration process for those sensors, for the radars, for everything that's included in a blind spot, mirrors, the cameras and behind the windshields. Where are the information providers kind of landing on pre-measure and diagnostics in this process?
Great question. And you'll see, like on the right side, we have estimating tips right here that talk about frame rack setup, equipment setup times are not included, but pre-measuring, pre-diagnosing, things. These are all languages that are also in the P pages of all three systems. Those are not included operations. So the prerequisites is to pre-check, pre-diagnose, pre-align, alignment checks, things like that are not included operations. And additionally, say you're replacing a quarter panel and the quarter panel has a blind spot monitor bracket, on there. The replacement of that quarter panel includes to align that quarter panel to the vehicle. Now, if you look at the OEM repair procedure, it will tell you do additional steps to measure and identify that bracket is in the correct position. In addition, so you're not just aligning the quarter panel, but now you have to measure and align, align that bracket, make sure that bracket sits in the right position. That measuring time is not included in that quarter panel replacement time.
And sometimes when you look at that also, there is no data of where to put that. So you're going to have to possibly, with your measuring system, measure the opposite side of the car and mirror point, if you want to call it, to be able to, put the part on the new quarter to match where, it is on the opposite side of the car. But we truly believe, and really, you can't get a true wheel alignment unless the vehicle is structurally straight. So when you look at all calibrations, they're saying you have to, have a wheel alignment. Well, you need to have a structural alignment first and a structural check before we can get a wheel alignment.
I've had the pleasure of walking through, only one OEM manufacturer when I used to live in California at the Tesla factory, and I got to watch how they, that's a pretty cool factory to walk through. But what you take away from walking through a manufacturer, any OEM manufacturer, is when when that car gets to the very end of that production cycle and it goes into that the final checks. The first thing they do in the final checks is if they have fluids, they do the fluids, but then they do a wheel alignment and ensure that the vehicle's straight. And then they do their final calibration to the ADAS systems, even at the factory level. So when all the repair procedures, when they talk about calibration alignments and, or calibration procedures, that's based on understanding that your structure is not damaged. It's based on the fact that knowing that your suspension is in the right spot first and confirmed to factory spec before you're doing your wheel alignment. So sometimes those procedures spell it out, in advance, but sometimes that's just common sense that as repair professionals that we need to understand in order to, get a car to go straight and the car must be aligned first. I mean that's prehistoric. I mean, you always had to have a car that goes straight based on and the suspension is based off the structure and so on. So structure, alignment, and then ADAS systems. I mean that's the order of operation. If you're going to go straight to ADAS with an unknown suspension, with an unknown structure, I don't even know where that car is going to go.
No, you're right. And I have seen though a few facilities that are like, hey, I can get this taken care of now while I'm waiting for this part over here or something, and they're actually side skirting a process that needs to be done before to change their production, when it shouldn't be done until all those other things are done first.
Right. And that's, I think you hit the nail on the head. Don't jump, three steps ahead thinking that you're going to save time, because all you're doing is potentially you're going to end up redoing that all over again. When you find out that A, it's not passing, or B, it's something, the procedure called for, prerequisites to be done. So again, go in the order, just like the car's manufacturer. They don't start with the roof first and then put the windshield in and then start build. You follow you do the repair in the order of the car, and just like it is. Your final checks are after your structure's correct, align it, and then you do your ADAS systems, and then you're fine. And then at the very end, your code checks, your scanning operations, and then the most important thing is road test it for verification, because we all know, I clear the code, but then the customer comes back, 2 or 3 days later. Oh, this light came on. Well, now that the system's relearning, reinitializing, and the car's readapting to the road, that's when it's going to start triggering some of these DTCs malfunctions as the cars are readapting or reinitializing to the driver's condition. So as repairers, we need to be doing that before the car gets, the keys are handed back to that vehicle owner.
I agree. And one of the other comments that you made a little bit earlier was common sense. And we do know that there's not a lot of that going around in the world now. So we have to make sure some of this stuff is documented.
Yeah. It's, really, since I've been in the role of the DEG, my background and my history has always been in working at a shop. I have a very technical background, and I haven't had the pleasure of working, other than seeing my specific market. I used to be in the Bay Area, so I was very, I only knew what my market taught me was, and we had a lot of horrible drivers, and therefore I learned really quickly, the challenges, when you see these brand new cars coming into your, on a rollback, before, and you call a dealership and they're like, we don't even have an oil filter for this car yet, and you're like, well, I'm going to need a frame rail for this car already. So, you kind of learn really quickly, you have to be ahead of the game. But, when I took on the position of the DEG, I got a quick understanding of all the various markets, all the challenges. I didn't understand weather conditions. I didn't understand rust, corrosion, like some markets challenged. And I had to learn how that applies in estimating to assist repairs, road test conditions. I had the luxury of being able to go on, on open lane highways. Granted, we have a lot of traffic. Some markets don't have, open lane, roads where you can go 60 miles an hour. So so those are all challenges to the industry that we have to overcome and adapt. And at the end of the day, it's got to be done. And working with the manufacturers, I haven't had the pleasure of working with glue pull systems. I've seen a lot of it. I've seen a lot of it from the online videos. And the minute I saw these glue systems, being adapted, and I saw, I saw your video that you guys demonstrated earlier this week, using the pull-up system. We had inquiries submitted, talking about glue pulling, because what is it? How does it apply to estimating? And when we learn more about it, it's a not included operation, repairing of a panel, but also you have so many other things like like the cost associated of like the glue, the release agents, the tabs that are that may become sacrificial. So that's the kind of things that we have to learn and apply to our estimating repair plans, and also capture that, because yeah, you might be saving time using a glue repair system, but there's also a cost associated to that system as well that needs to be factored as well. Otherwise, the system is only as good as what you charge for it as well to get your ROI.
Right. And a good valid point. Processes are always going to change. Equipment's going to change. So that's where the DEG really is going to continue to grow in the future, I can see. I want to really thank you for taking time out of your day. I know it was a last minute getting hooked up with you to be able to do this, but we're going to invite you back And this is going to be a monthly thing for us, maybe even bi-monthly. We're still trying to figure it out. We've already got a bunch of inquiries of different things that people want to see. So Danny, I want to thank you. If you need to get a hold of Danny, it's admin@degweb.org, and the website www.degweb.org. Again, thank you. This is all great stuff that's going to help everybody succeed in the industry.
Last thing I just want to point out, because I know you have customers in various markets as well, or you have viewers in different countries. The DEG is going to be your resource for North America, specifically for United States and Canada, is where we can make the most amount of impact for you. Unfortunately, we don't have if you're from another country and you want to have a conversation, I'm open to conversations and things like that. But if you're looking for actual corrections, it's going to be primarily for the U.S. and Canada markets where we can make the most amount of impact. For anyone watching. But I just wanted to let the viewers up north know that we are here to help them as well.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Carl, what else you got?
What else we got? Well,
you got any questions?
We are out of questions right now, but keep those questions rolling in for Danny. Like I said, Tim gave you his direct email address. Hope that's okay, Danny.
Absolutely.
We'll fill up your email box and get some more. Continue refining the data so that it's accurate, so that people are getting the most out of the repair planning up front.
We'll help push you over to 20,000, Mark.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you.
What's up next, Tim?
Well, we have our wrap up at 2 p.m. Talk about the week. Talk about the exciting stuff that we learned this week. I learned a lot. It's just amazing when you look at what the manufacturers were able to share, what Danny just shared with us, the round table that we had, and we're going to talk a little bit about things that we learned just being live. So take us out, Carl. We'll see you all at 2 p.m. Central.
Here we go.